Welcome back, everyone. It is part two of Urban Girl Scout Media Card Spotlight on Goblins. My name is Tony, and if you missed part one, I would suggest checking it out. It's some of the more wacky and fun goblins in the game that I personally love. This video is going to be more about the ones, like I said, than the last one. This is going to be about the ones that pay the bills, that show up and show out. So I'm a little more subdued to start this one because this is a little bit more of a serious. When these come on the board, they are definitely game changers type of video. All right, so next, Skirk Prospector. Again, another one drop, cheap goblin, 1/1. It's in that common print. This is really awesome because you can sacrifice a goblin, add 1 red to your mana pool. So, excuse me, I didn't want to burp into the microphone there. But back to the goblins, right? So the reason we like this is because we can sack to ramp, sack to avoid loss of creatures for senseless reasons, all sorts of sacking to get more mana. We love getting more mana, and goblins, fast, and sack are two of their great strengths. And here we go. First card, second video, it's going to be Foundry Street Denizen. So this is a 1-caster goblin creature. This is really what makes this card popular is the pauper decks. And again, red creature. It's not just goblins that trigger its ability there, but when a red creature enters the battlefield, this creature specifically gets +1/+0. So in a lot of those just blitz red token and aggro goblin decks, this card will definitely find its way into most lists. Which, now that we're sticking with that idea of goblins being fast, aggressive, having abilities, let's look at this badass mother jubber right here. So we got the bushwhacker, and really again, it's that kicker. It's when he's kicked and he comes into play, your creatures that you control. And it's not just red creatures. It's not just goblins. It's creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. You're going to see them in a lot of aggressive decks, a lot of goblin builds. Not more than 1 or 2 of them. Even at a casual level, I really like this card because for 2 red, you're pumping up and you're getting haste to all your creatures for a turn. So get excited, kids, because we are now getting past the 1-drops and we're getting into the real stuff. First, Gem Palm Incinerator. So goblins don't have a ton of direct removal that is synergy approved for their decks. So this bad boy, this guy gets us going. So you have a bunch of goblins on the field and your opponent has 1 or 2 really big creatures. You can cycle this to deal damage to that creature. And remember, you get to draw a card. You get to draw a card on top of doing the damage. I'm going to be honest, in all of my years of playing Magic, I do not know if I've attacked with this creature maybe more than in 5 or 6 different games. It's just not a creature that I get out to attack with. It's a creature that I use for the draw and for the damage. A lot of synergy within goblins. That's something I keep talking about, and this card really supports that. Also, really, 2 colorless and a red for the power and toughness that this card is. That's a shit deal. So that cycling ability, we're drawing a card. It's in red, so there's not a lot of great draw mechanic. And then the direct damage, which is something red is known for. So holy shit. We are finally going to see our first Lord make its appearance on this list. Goblin Chieftain. It's 1 colorless, 2 red. It has haste, and it gives other goblins I control +1/+1 and haste at 2/2. So there's a few lords that goblins have that I'm sure we could look at and say, oh, that's awesome, or that serves, Goblin King gives them Mountain Walk. There's all sorts of things. I love this because, again, it's an aggressive card, the haste. So when we put our tokens out, when we have creatures that we want to swing with right away, this is a card that's actually going to start that process up for us. They're going to hit the board and they're going to not only be able to attack, they're going to get a little bit extra. Because if you haven't noticed, goblins are generally 1/1s, 2/2s, maybe the occasional 3/1 or 2/3, something like that. But generally, It is a strength in numbers kind of ordeal, and chiefs will pump them up. This is my favorite of them. I didn't want to bog down a list with a bunch of chiefs because really the only differences between a bunch of them is, or a bunch of lords rather, the difference is, you know, whether they reduce the cost, give them mountain walk, pump them, whatever they do. All right, kids, buckle in, strap in, whatever you need to do to get ready, because we are going into the top 5 and we're going to hit it off with the Goblin Sharpshooter. So I specifically have another video where the card logic is out of order, because if you think about it, go back to that Skirk Prospector, every time you sack a Goblin, well, this guy would untap. If you look at his abilities and you read through it, he deals the 1 damage to a creature or player. He doesn't untap during your untap step. When a creature dies, you can untap him. So there is a lot of synergy within this card. Some of the sack mechanics within Goblins, the fact that they're so aggressive, when they go to attack, you can tap this, deal the 1 damage, the creature dies, untap it, and have it do another 1 damage. So this is actually one of, in my opinion, this is one of the best cards in the Goblins realm, I guess is the way to put it. Again, not a card that you're going to attack with very often. I just like to get this Mamma Jamma on the floor and get him dancing. That's it. Now, there is a downside. If you're not killing creatures one way or the other, whether it be tokens that you're zapping or whether it be your creatures that you're losing, this card is not that powerful. So you do have to find a way to kind of funnel it and get it going. That is kind of the buyer beware of Goblins, is that if you're not prepared to live out that aggressive lifestyle, cards like this really become neutered and become pointless in your deck. Alright, so coming in at number 4 is Krenko Mob Boss. This guy is the quintessential token creator, token supporter in Goblins. So first off, at 2 colorless and 2 red, he's a 3/3 legendary creature. You can tap him and you create a 1/1 red goblin creature for each goblin you control. So if you control 2 plus him, you tap him, you get 3 1/1 tokens. This card essentially inspired me to build my EDH mono red goblin deck, because now there are certain enchantments like Blood Moon that you can use, artifacts like Crawl Space, where you can kind of limit what your opponents are able to do to you or do in the game. And then you have cards like this where you can just go all out. Not to mention, if you keep those goblins at 1/1, there's cards like Ensnaring Bridge that will allow you to keep a small hand size, and you may only need 1 or 2 cards in your hand to use cards like this to create those tokens. We've seen Goblin Sharpshooter, where we could just sack these tokens to create a bunch of mana and untap our Sharpshooter. There's so many functions, combos. I keep using the word synergy because that's what creature types are all about. You'll see that when you look at goblins, merfolks, elves, dragons, all of them really. They're created to have synergy to a specific degree. Goblins, I'm telling you, it's an aggressive creature base, and this card really gets us there. This card is really what, like I said, it inspired me to make a mono red goblin EDH deck. I wasn't really excited about it beforehand, but the fact that if I have haste for all my creatures and I drop this, I can start pumping up and pumping out very quick. It's an exciting card to play. Definitely a top 5. So I'm going to cheat for this next card, or next spot, and I'm going to use 2 cards for it. Anyone who knows Magic well enough, or who knows me, knows exactly where I'm going. First off, we're going to use the OG of the 2, Goblin Lackey. It's a 1-drop. It's a 1/1. It's classic Goblin, low mana cost, small creature. And when it deals damage, you put a Goblin card into play from your hand. Imagine turn 2 dealing combat damage to an opponent and being able to just drop whatever Goblin creature card you have in your hand. That is what this card offers you. Now, I said there was 2 cards we're going to use, so here's the other one. Warren Instigator. Basically, it's a Goblin Lackey, a little bit more beefed up. It's got that double strike. You can put in 2 creatures if it gets through. There is a downside that best case scenarios, this is a turn 3 attack. Most of the time your opponents are going to have an answer to it, but I just love these two cards. I love the fact that I can attack with a Lackey or an Instigator early and get out a big creature. And I really love that there are so many cards that we haven't talked about, like Siege Gang Commander, Kiki Jiki. These are cards that we didn't even talk about in this video that aren't making it onto the list. And they would just get dropped in if these creatures get through. If the attack from either one of these two gets through, this is what you are dealing with when it comes to goblins. The ability to empty your hand out in just a matter of an attack or two. Alright, so coming in at number 2, no shame in being second place to my favorite card, but this card, Vexing Shusher, probably a surprise for a few people who've played Magic with me, because I don't play this card a ton. It's not a card that, normally when I play Goblins, now I have to be pretty careful. People know that they're an aggressive creature base, so I don't really have a ton of room in the decks that I run Goblins right now. But this card's always been powerful, and it's always been one of my favorites. It can't be countered, and you can protect your spells. You can help your opponents if you're playing in a multiplayer game. I do like the casting cost setup that they have. It can be 2 green or 2 red. It's a goblin or a shaman. So there's a lot of flexibility to the card. It offers green and red, something it doesn't really have a lot of, and that is spell protection. Colors like blue just kind of run over everything else with counters. So it's really nice to see just some kind of strength for these two colors to protect themselves. Creatures need the opportunity to get out, and this card, you know, if you get it out and you're able to keep it out for a few turns, you can play some spells, you can get yourself going, and you can protect yourself. Oh my god, we made it! Finally, I knew from the moment that I wanted to do this video that this card would be my number 1 pick. Goblin Matron. I always say it wrong. I've been saying the name wrong since I first started playing it. I know it's Matron, but it annoys people. I love this card. I love the fact that it's a 3 mana cost, so it's right at the top of the curve for what we want to play to stay aggressive with goblins. It searches for a card and puts it in your hand. It's not on top of your library. It's in your hand, so that when you have cards like Goblin Lackey or Warren Instigator or Aether Vial, you can just drop this card in and go searching, or whatever you've already searched for, put in with those attacks. I cannot tell you how many times I have attacked with Warren Instigator. On the first drop, drop this, and on the second, whatever I've gone to search for. This card is a very big change of fortune style play in Goblins. This is a card that can easily change the game for you. It can turn you from trashy to classy in just one search. Absolutely one of my favorite cards. I'm sure that if I really step back and tried to make a list based on everything other than personal preference, if I looked at power and if I looked at what they get used at outside just Goblin decks, this card probably wouldn't make the top 5. But in all reality, this is a list about what the hell I like. This is one of my favorite cards in Magic, not just of Goblins. In Magic, this is one of my favorite cards. So that's it. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you guys have enjoyed the artwork. I've really enjoyed going through all these cards. Like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next time.